My name is Faraji Muhammad. I am the host of WEAA's Listen Up, and I am also a contributor for NPR's Tell Me More. And today, this is our session with the actor, the author, the community volunteer, but just an all-around good person, Mr. Terrence J. So today we're going to have a great conversation about his book, The Wealth of My Mother's Wisdom. We want to welcome a brother who is no stranger to the airwaves that you see. From hosting BET's 106 in Park and E! News to roles in some of the biggest films being made today. And if you didn't know, he's in the latest film by David Talbot, a Baltimore native, called Baggage Claim. Yeah, with Paula Patton and a whole lot of actors and actresses. So we want to welcome Mr. Terrence Jenkins, better known as Terrence J., who is living a life he could only imagine when he was a young boy. Please, Brother Terrence. Yes, sir, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it is in this part of his story where we have learned the lessons, where he's learned the lessons he's learned from his mother that helped make him a man. Lessons about sacrifice, courage, loyalty, dreams, perseverance. Lessons taught through words and actions. And he shares all of these lessons in his latest book. And I'm going to say latest because we're expecting more from you. The Wealth of My Mother's Wisdom. So without further ado, let's give him that Baltimore love for Mr. Terrence J.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Terrence, first and foremost, congratulations on all of the success you've had. You've really have gone up the ladder of success in Hollywood. And most importantly, you've done it in such a way that you still maintain a certain level of integrity. And you certainly have been true to who you are. So I want to personally thank you and congratulate you on that success. Let's talk about this book, though. Now, my book is a little bit wrinkled because I've actually been reading this book. But this book is very, very inspirational. Very inspirational. You talked about the lessons that your mother gave you. First and foremost, what inspired you to even write a book on this about this instead of all of the other topics you could have spoken on?
I was working on a film called Think Like a Man, and my character in that movie was a mama's boy, and so I really wasn't a mama's boy in real life, and I started doing all this character research on my mom and just trying to really jump into what that is, and I realized that there was so much about my mom that I didn't even know. You know your mom as your mother, but I never really talked to her about her dreams and her goals and her aspirations prior to having me. And throughout our conversations, I started to realize that she sacrificed so much at such a young age. I mean, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. She didn't get to go to the prom. She didn't get to, go to college because she wanted me to not be on drugs and wanted me to stay away from gangs and stay off of the streets. And, she was raising me. And so I wanted to tell a story. I know I'm, not old enough to really have enough life behind me to do a memoir. And so I told it from her perspective with some of the stories, on the front end of my career, with the hopes that it would inspire young people or anybody that's going through anything to reach after their dreams.
Now, as part of this storytelling, you tell it from a very unique perspective. You tell it from the story of Tiffany. And it's a young girl who you said you met at the Boys and Girls Club, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you talk about it, how you're having these ongoing conversations with her, but during the course of these conversations, you're sharing this lesson. Who is Tiffany, and why did you decide to take your narrative that direction?
Tiffany is I wanted to pay it forward. I wanted to speak directly to somebody that I felt represented, a larger mass. And so Tiffany represents two girls, one of which used to come to 106 in Park a lot, and I kind of mentored and shadowed her. And then another that I worked with at the Boys and Girls Club of America. Both, got pregnant at a young age, and just the conversation basically takes place with them asking me questions, and the book goes on a journey over the time of her pregnancy and the time of her having the baby, and as she's going with the struggles of maintaining the relationship with the baby father, deciding to go to college, deciding to get an internship. It kind of tackles all those questions that somebody that age would normally ask me, but under the device of using her as a representation of everybody that's young out there.
So what is it about these when the person reads this book and they see you kind of sharing all of this guidance and this wisdom, and they're wondering, well, you came from, as you mentioned in your book, you came from a two-parent household. You had your stepfather Jamie, and you talked about him, and then you had your mother. But for those who may not have come from that, you know what I mean, and you spoke on it really well, talking about the struggles of the single mother. How are they able to take the lessons that you shared in this book and apply it to their personal life?
Well, my mom had me, like I said, when she was 17. I was born into welfare. She didn't meet my stepfather until I was, a little bit older. And so the book talks, one, about her decisions. I never met my biological father. And that was a decision that my mom made, and it was to not have him involved because he was, a drug dealer, and there was a lot of negative energy there. Right. So it talks about her decision to cut him off and how she found a man and the standards that she held herself to in order to find the man that, became my stepfather. So that was one of the stories that I wanted to tell. And then it also tells of how, it's not just your parental situation that really makes an influence on your life. I share the story of how I got the gig on 106 in Park, and even how I got the movies. And it was the friends that I made. It was the positive energy and choosing the right friendships that really kind of nudged me and inspired me and motivated me to continuously go after my dreams.
Now you got it. Speaking of dreams, because you really put an emphasis in the book. You talk to Tiffany and say, look, stay focused on your dreams. How have you been able to stay focused?
I believe that when it comes to your dreams, giving 99% is the same as giving 0. If you're going to give 99%, you might as well stay home. Every time I leave the house and I jump into a project and I get involved with something, I give it 110%. That's the only way to go. If not, you might as well just stay at home. So when it comes to focusing on my dreams, I realize that, I have a long way to go. I work for E! News now, so I'm in the elevator with Ryan Seacrest every day. I'm 300 million short, so I know that I have a long way to go. And even when I shoot a film like Think Like a Man, I'm on set with Kevin Hart and Taraji P. Henson and way more established people. So I always just try to stay focused. I know I have a long way to go in my career. And I also try to just, bring other people up with me. And that's why I wanted to write the book, because I wanted to, lay out the blueprint and the good things that I've been able to do in my career, and also talk about the mistakes, because I've made plenty, and I just wanted to share that with everyone.
I think one of the biggest things that people would get from your books, Terrence, is the tone that you use. The same tone that you share with us today. It's a very honest tone and a very relaxed tone. Whose decision was it to represent those principles in that tone? Was that your decision, or somebody was, how did that happen? What was that process?
That's kind of the only way I know. I'm kind of one note, because I'm pretty honest and pretty open, and what I've gone through in my career has given me a very unique perspective. And so when you host a show like 106 in Park, you get to see all of these incredible, young, talented people come with these big records, right? And they come on the show, and sometimes they have an ego that's attached with them. And so you watch the trajectory of blowing up and having the biggest smash in the world to falling off and never being heard of again. And so being there so long, I got to see that the people that showed humility and the people that showed grace, the Will Smiths of the world, the Jamie Foxxes of the world, those people are the ones that have longevity, and those that don't, they come and they go. So the book is very honest. I almost went bankrupt at one point in my career. The IRS came and got me, and I talk about that. That's a really early draft, so I don't know if you have it, but I had a girlfriend that passed away. So I talk about the importance of, sharing your love with people while they're still living. I got diagnosed with vitiligo a couple of years ago, and so I get these big blotches of light patches. This is the same thing, that Michael Jackson had. And so I just deal with, when things happen with your health and body issues, things that are way out of your control, how I've just learned to just look to God and just keep on chugging along. So I just hope that all of the different things that I've gone through, from the financial problems to the relationship problems to the health issues, I think that there are common denominators with everybody's life. We're all going through those things. And I think that when people see me on TV, you don't see any of those things. So hopefully when they read about it and realize that I'm going through the same stuff as everybody else, it will be a catalyst and be a motivational factor for somebody that aspires to do the same thing or better.
What would you like for people to get from this book? What would be what would be the biggest message or the biggest nugget of wisdom that you would want your readers to have from you or from your mother?
It would be to never give up. Everything that I've done in my career, from 106 to E to any films, baggage claim, whatever. It's never been an easy road. I go on countless auditions. I might go on 100 auditions to get one job, and so I just tell people, like, whatever it is that's your goal or your aspiration, never ever give up. And I think that's the biggest lesson that my mother instilled in me, and that's the biggest lesson that I think it serves as the overarching theme of the narrative.
Now, you show your mother so much love. I have to ask, your role in Think Like a Man, was that just happenstance, bro?
No, it was kind of the opposite. I realized I didn't know her. I never, prior to doing the film, I never asked my mom simple questions like, was she involved in any sports clubs in high schools, or, what she wanted to do with her. Like, I never knew any of those things. I just knew that she grounded me for being late for curfew. And, I knew that, I needed to do the dishes. I never looked at it from her perspective. And so doing the movie is actually something that brought us closer, and we've been a lot closer over the past 3-4 years since I took on that project, and now the book.
That's what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Mr. Terrence J. All right, this is what we're going to do right now. We're going to open it up to the floor, Terrence, just to get a couple of questions from the audience.
I graduated from Morgan State University 2010 with my bachelor's in broadcasting, and seeing you is a great inspiration. A lot of my peers have dropped to the side when it comes to doing communications because, you have to pay your dues, and they just decide to leave it alone. And I'm still going at it for sports journalism. What advice would you give to us young broadcasters out there still trying to get into this industry?
When I graduated in 2004, everyone told me that there was no way I could make money doing broadcast and journalism, and they said you really can't monetize it that well. It's a very difficult industry to break into, especially on the national level. There's more local jobs, but to break in nationally, it's an uphill battle. And they told me that there's no way that I could do it. So I ended up working at a marketing job that I absolutely hated. And I had a friend of mine that told me there was an audition in New York for BET. At this point, I had maybe $30,000 worth of college debt. I was working at this job. My bank account literally had maybe like $400 in it. And the plane ticket just to go to New York was like $600. So I had to ask the girl I was dating at the time to borrow some money. I flew into New York and got cut for the first audition. They told me, I'm not good enough. And I remember I was on the airport my flight was leaving out of LaGuardia, and one of my boy, Fred, who's over there, he was driving, kind of dozed off in the car, and we woke up outside of Philly. And I was like, what are we doing? Why are we in Philly? You know, you missed the airport. And he said that there's an audition tomorrow in Atlanta, Georgia. So let's go to the audition. You got nothing else to lose. You already lost once. Why not lose twice? So he drove me down to the next audition in Atlanta. My boy Travis, who's right there holding the camera, actually lived closer. So he went and waited in line until we got there. When I got there, they weren't taking any new people. And the only reason I got into the audition is because I had the name badge from the audition in New York City. That's the only way I got through the door. I had to lie to the security and tell them I was already in and left my phone. I go in, I now had the script from my New York audition, and I memorized it because I had that long, 14-hour drive. So now I went in there with the confidence of knowing what was going to happen, and I had nothing to lose at that point. So I went in and I did really well on the first one, went to the next round, eventually sat in front of Stephen Hill, who looked at me and said, "You look familiar. I feel like I just saw your tape." And I told him, "Yeah, I'm going to keep on harassing you until you give me an opportunity." And that's how I got the gig at 106 in Park. And so the reason I tell that story is because if I were to have quit in New York, I wouldn't be here today. Like literally, I would have just went ahead and just kept on with that job that I hated. And so what I always say is that every time you get told no, that just means you're one step closer to be getting told yes. And it's just up to you to persevere. And I understand people have, different responsibilities. Sometimes you have kids, sometimes you have, a family member that you're taking care of. There's all types of different things that are going on. And for me, it was, the financial thing. I was dead broke living on somebody's couch. But it's never giving up. This industry is one that if you want to get in the door, you're going to be told no. And it's up to you to be persistent and keep on going. If you want, a job that you can walk right into, there are several of those jobs. But for us, it's an uphill battle. But I just want you to know that if you stay at it, I guarantee you, my little skinny butt can do it. You can do it and do it better than me.
Is there anything that BET does specially to groom you all so that you can move forward?
Well, you know what? I've never been asked that question, but I would say yes. I think the executive team there at the time that I was there, they were very supportive in us doing outside projects. So when I was hosting 106, they allowed me to do a show called Chloe After Dark. That was on E! With Khloe Kardashian. And that's how I got introduced to Kris Jenner. That show was produced by Ryan Seacrest. And that kind of led to, me being on E! Today. We were able to be nurtured, and they didn't give up on us. When we first got there, we were terrible. I'll be the first one to admit. I was really not good on 106 the first 2, maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years, maybe never. But they stuck with me, and because of that, I'm able to be on E! News, and now the sky's the limit. So it was a very blessed situation.
Terrence, I have to point out that in that story, it's very interesting how one thing led to another. Like, it was never a break in time. You getting the opportunity on E! Because you met somebody while doing 106 in Park. So, I mean, that's very critical that we put that out there, that if you open yourself up to one opportunity, new opportunities will open up for you as well.
And I was just wondering if your mother learned anything through the process of you writing the book. I know you mentioned that you learned something about her. Did she learn anything about herself?
My mom, she flew into LA last weekend. We brought 100 moms to Disneyland for the first time. Me and my mom treated them, and we had a great experience. And she read the book for the first time last weekend on the flight. And when she landed, she was in tears because she didn't know so much about me. I'm a man, so when I go through, financial problems or relationship problems, I don't call my mom and vent. You know how men are. We kind of holds it all in. So this was like my vent session. This was really me, pouring my heart and my life out. So my mom learned a lot about me that she never knew either. So for us, it's been an experience that has really brought us closer, and I'm really appreciative that I've had this opportunity to write it.
What were you hoping to accomplish when you wrote it? I know it was definitely a vent session, but what else were you hoping to accomplish, considering you are, in fact, an idol for a young African American man who aspires to be. It's just a positive image. Especially, I was very excited when you got the job on E News because I was like, oh yes, like someone who's young and African American and a male on E is a big deal. So I guess what were you hoping to accomplish in your new venture with the book?
I grew up in the 90s, and I remember the Charles Barkley commercial where he was like, "I am not a role model," and I remember the more he kept saying he wasn't a role model, the more he became a role model to me. And when I realized, that people were watching me, and I would have kids that would come to 106 from all over the country, all over the world, and say that they were watching my career and following me, and they saw me, especially when they were young broadcasting majors, as kind of a blueprint. I think I think it becomes your responsibility. I think if I keep taking from the world and receiving these blessings, I think it's part of my responsibility to give back. I think that when people don't give back, it's kind of it's outlandish to me because you're given so much and opportunities come your way, and God is actually obviously anointing you in some way. So I think it becomes your responsibility. So more so than anything, I felt like it was my responsibility. I felt like there was a unique story to be told that hasn't been told. And the book addresses just a lot of things that are current right now. We're in a totally different, these last 10 years have just really changed the scope of the world, from Twitter and Facebook and how we interact with each other, how we interact with relationships. And so I wanted to include a lot of that to really, have an impact on young people. So, I mean, the simple answer is I just wanted to motivate people.
My question is just, in terms of someone who's just getting started, like post-college, what advice could you give in terms of networking and really like getting to know people and like stepping out of your comfort zone?
Absolutely. Always take business cards, always follow up, develop genuine relationships. So a lot of times when you meet people and you get their business card at an event, what they tell you in school is, follow up with your resume and try to, be all professional and make sure you keep that level of professionalism. But it's also about developing genuine relationships. So it's about following up on Christmas and saying, hey, Merry Christmas. It's about, following up and knowing when that person who you want a job from, knowing when their birthday is and saying, hey, happy birthday. Stopping by their office, bringing some coffee before you get the gig. I always say you dress and you prepare for the gig like you already have it. And for me, prior to getting the job as the host on 106, I was brought into the network as pretty much a correspondent, kind of an intern. I was just kind of hanging around the building. But I always brought the producers' ideas. I always kind of interjected myself even before the gig was mine. So it's about, really bringing value to your relationships. Instead of just sending them, your resume, hey, I want a job. Say, hey, you know what? Maybe you want to work at the local news station, right? Instead of just sending the resume, say, hey, I love the story that you did last week. And I just thought it was really a brilliant piece. I saw that, kudos. Or, hey, you know what? I had an idea about a story. I don't know if you know about the Baltimore Book Festival. It's really amazing. If nobody has picked that up, maybe I can come out here and shoot something for you for free. It's developing those types of relationships that I think are the ones that really bear fruit.
Let's give Terrence a warm round of applause for being here at the Baltimore Book Festival.